And we are live. Welcome to greeneconomy.tv. I'm your host, Byron McDonald, and facilitator. Today on our platform, we have Joseph Ndou, Regional Manager of Johannesburg City Parks and Zoo. He will be going in conversation with publisher of Positive Impact magazine, Gordon Brown. But before I go ahead, as I say each week, greeneconomy.tv provides insights and intelligence on all sustainability related matters. So let's welcome on our guests. Hey, Joseph and Gordon, how are you guys?
No, we are doing fine, and thanks for asking.
Hi Byron, nice to see you as always. Hi Joseph, nice to chat with you on air. Welcome.
So,
Thank you,
so
Gordon.
Joseph, Gordon will be asking all the relevant questions today. So I'm handing the show over to him.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
No, thanks very much indeed, Byron. And Joseph, great to have you on the show. It's so important the work that our cities do when it comes to sustainability and the green economy and so forth. We know that our carbon footprint, whether as individuals or whether as businesses, is often a function of the sustainability of the services that we receive from the city, whether that's to do with electricity or recycling or water or so many different things. So it really is a super important daily role that the cities play in this regard. And that's, of course, recognized at international level, recognized at national level. Sometimes consumers don't always understand that, but you represent and you spend your days working with your colleagues at the Department of Parks and Zoo, but that's also an area that people don't fully appreciate the value of. Can you explain to us? And people usually think about service delivery, as I say, electricity and water and all of these things. Perhaps you can give me a sense. I'd like you to just perhaps, on the one hand, give us a bit of an overview of the parks and gardens and zoo and the scale of the work that you do, but also just give us a sense of what is your mandate from the city, from the mayor's office. What do you have to account for as far as your department is concerned?
Gordon, thank you so much for having us, or for having me here, representing my colleagues and the city of Johannesburg with regard to issues of environment. You're quite right that the services that we actually deliver to the residents of Johannesburg, to some of the residents, it takes a back seat, because for them the priority is the issues of electricity, housing, road, and water. But there is a lot of work that we are actually doing that actually benefits the residents. We have got plus or minus 4,000 parks in the city of Johannesburg, as well as Joburg Zoo that we are actually looking after. And as a result of having these facilities, we are mainly responsible for the maintenance of designated open spaces, such as your parks, crematoria, your cemeteries, your protected areas, meaning your poppies, your nature reserve, as well as what you call it, doing maintain ecological and aquatic maintenance. And then the other things that we are actually doing, which is another big issue of buzzword nowadays, when we talk about issues of climate change. You have heard that. It's issues of tree maintenance, whereby we are involved in issues of tree planting, You know that Johannesburg is renowned worldwide for being a man-made forest. We have got plus or minus 3.2 million trees in our street right now that we are maintaining in terms of pruning of our matured trees, as well as maintenance of our newly planted trees, that we are actually increasing the canopy in the city of Johannesburg. That have got direct and indirect benefits that some of the residents might be aware of it, but some of them, then they are not aware of it. So in essence, that's what we are on a daily basis. That's what we are actually doing on behalf of the city of Johannesburg. And our mandate from COJ, or City of Johannesburg, that has been mandated to us is the sustainable provision and preservation and management of open spaces, biodiversity, environment, conservation services through education, research, direct conservation, action, recreation with a focus on the zoo, Joburg Zoo, and parks, open spaces, and cemeteries. So in essence, that is our mandate that separates us from other municipal-owned entities like your Joburg Water, City Power, etc., etc.
Wow, so that's it's actually quite an extensive mandate. I didn't realize that it actually incorporated all of that. And I mean, 4,000 parks. I mean, that's a lot of parks. That's a lot of work to do.
Yes.
So obviously, just in terms of working closely together with other departments, I would imagine that you would obviously dovetail in with a lot of the other departments, especially, I suppose, Department of Sanitation also have to come through and clean up and so forth. I'm sure you have a lot of work to do with the water department. I'm sure you do a certain amount of irrigation and looking after the ideas relating to or projects relating to the flow of runoff, and perhaps using some of the parks and these areas to soften the impact of stormwater runoff and so forth. So just on that note, I mean, and I suppose you also link in with developmental departments that deal with housing and so forth. Perhaps just talk to us about how your department interlinks with other key departments just on a daily basis to make it all happen and keep the city moving forward.
Okay. I mean, like you have just indicated, we actually worked closely with our sister companies. For example, Pick It Up, which is responsible for refuse removal in the city of Johannesburg, in terms of ensuring that there is less illegal dumpings in our public open spaces, whereby they assist with the issues of providing skips next to our park facilities, and also with the issues of environmental education. And when it comes to agencies like your Joburg Road Agency, I mean, in terms of maintenance or maintenance of trees on road reserve, we work closely with them. And even when they want to do road expansion, so we come in whereby now we plan it together so that we preserve what we have, if it's possible. And also they link us to the developers who want also to develop in the area. And if there is issues of traffic congestion and they want to expand the road, we work closely with them to say, if then you want to remove these trees, this is the next step that you need to replant. Or we say, but can't you reroute in order to ensure that then we preserve the green economy? So those are the kind of things that we actually do on a daily basis. I mean, for example, you mentioned Joburg Water, issues of making sure that whatever plan that we have in place, when we build our park, we need to do what we call water conservation. Instead of us now, what we call it, wasting water. I mean, they assist us with planning around water harvesting in our park facilities, and also the type of materials that we can use that not going to cause a run of water. So those are the type that, those are the type that we work with them on a daily basis. For example, City Power, I mean, they are assisting us to ensure that then the lightning that we are putting in our park facilities, then they are not energy thirsty. So that then, yes, yeah. So, I mean, those are kind of interactions that we're working together on a daily basis.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And obviously, I imagine you also work with Metro Police around security and all sorts of other things. So, I'm just emphasizing, that the importance of this department within the context of the city. So, just another thing that I think is very important to talk about, and I'm sure that that you guys do talk about this, but in terms of the goals of a city, other than to create this leading environment, to create the city that's attractive for investment, attractive for, and that's not only from business point of view, but also attractive for residents. To get people to invest and buy and live in the city and so forth. How important is it? And how much of a differentiating factor is it? From a point of view of making these neighborhoods appealing, making neighborhoods attractive to potential buyers. To what extent does the environment in which a property is positioned, that I'm talking about the public spaces, the verges, proximity to parks and other amenities, to what extent does that underpin property value? And then I'd like to just talk briefly about the value of that to the city from a point of view of rates. But I'd also like you to answer that from a point of view of new urban developments. I mean, obviously, we're aware that if you look at Johannesburg, there's the leafy northern suburbs. And then in other suburbs, there are fewer trees. In these new suburbs that you're creating, perhaps also in where you've got in situ upgrading of townships and so forth, is planting of trees part of that development? And is this livability, this appealing nature of the city that's created and enforced, well, not enforced, but enhanced, by beautiful parks and beautiful spaces and trees? Perhaps just talk about that and talk about how important that is within the context of your mandate.
I mean, you just raised a very good point. And I mean, the importance of the green open spaces in the neighborhoods or residential areas. For a city, then that is the one of the most important things that actually they are looking at to make sure that our green open spaces are maintained properly, to ensure that the value of properties that are in close proximity to the open spaces increases. And you remember that when it increases, it means that the revenue rates, our rates that the city actually collect, then increases. So it means that you are attracting people, what you call it, to come and live closer to the parks. Their property value goes up, and then it means that the rates also increases. So that is one of the most important things that the city, what you call it, is looking at. And that's why now they are also making sure that we maintain these parks to be of a quality standards, so that people must not walk away and leave buildings whereby now then it will end up homeless. Because when you lose one building from someone who was paying rates, the city have lost revenues. So instead now, hence all our parks in our suburbs, in our township, then they are being maintained properly, with also with the help of the community, so that then they don't end up on the wrong hands and then chase people away. And you mentioned the issues of, and you also mentioned the issues of the northern and the southern side of the city, your leafy suburbs and your township. I mean, as we speak right now, we are busy working around issues of trees planting in the previously disadvantaged area, or areas whereby there are no trees, so that we can bridge the green divide that separated the south and the north. Last year, in October, in one of the newly built, what do you call it, a suburb, Riverside, in Riverside, we planted 2,000 trees in 2 hours. In collaboration with the developer. It means that when the developer was developing this area, we had a meeting with him, and we said, as you develop, we plant trees. When people move in this new house, their area is green. So we are working around that, and that was done. And then we also went to one area in the Midrand. We planted 1,000 trees in 1 hour, because then that area, you can see that there's it does not have a lot of trees. And if you go there right now, it's green. And the other thing, because of the lack of planting space in certain areas, for example, in your township that have been built a long time ago, what we are doing, we do fruit tree distribution, whereby we give people fruit so that they can plant it inside their own yard. Not only are they going to have shade, but they are also going to have food. I mean, now it's an issue of food security. So you are actually killing two birds with one stone. So that is one big issues that we are working in the city of Johannesburg, and it's also made important because of the issues of short borer. You know about the issues of short borer that is attacking a lot of matured trees in the city of Johannesburg. So that's why now more emphasis is on trees planting in the newly built area. And now in this current financial year, we are going to plant 6,000 trees. 6,000 trees in your Bramfisher, your Orange Farm, your Ivory Park, because those are the areas that actually don't have trees, so that then you can have your center everywhere. So that is the most important thing, because you must bear in mind, Gordon, that there are a lot of benefits that people derived from trees that have been planted. What actually made me so happy, 2 to 3 weeks back, it was very hot here in Johannesburg. It's around 37 degrees Celsius. I mean, I saw a lot of taxi drivers, taxi commuters, actually sitting under our newly planted trees. Everybody was looking for the tree to park their vehicles. And that's when I started to realize that then it means that the work that we are doing, as much as people won't talk about it, but it have got a big role that is playing, that unconsciously people don't see it, but they're benefiting from it. So there's a lot of yes. And the other thing,
thank you for that. Yeah, Kara.
And no, the other thing that I want to raise is the issue of, if you look at the issue, the way that houses are being built nowadays, it's mainly high-rising buildings, right? Whereby people want to have their own yard, meaning that you will end up with a lot of concrete jungle if then trees are not planted, and then the temperature will increase as well. So that's why now we are embarking on this program of planting trees, ensuring that any public open spaces need to be developed, so that now it actually assist with the issues of reducing of heat, and also providing people to go and stay or sit during during this heat, because not everybody can afford aircon. So we are actually, by planting tree, providing them with free aircon that actually is beneficial to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe let's chat about that factor as well. I mean, if you're not close to, the service delivery conversation,
Yes.
you might not be aware of the fact that, with cities compete worldwide to see, which cities are most attractive, which cities can attract the investment. So one of the aspects of that relates to the sustainability of that city. And that's a complex matrix of actions and so forth. But one of the key things that cities can do to improve their environmental performance is to have green spaces and to have many trees. And the city of Johannesburg is blessed with a vast number of trees. But tell us a little bit more about this heat island effect, which is what we're talking about there. The heat island effect, of course, is that when you just have a concrete space, when you just have a paved surface, the effect of that is to heat up the entire city. And we've seen those graphs where the graph goes along through the veldt, and then when it gets to the city, the temperature spikes up, and then as it exits the city and back into the rural area around the city, the temperature drops down again. Now, obviously, that has this effect of just warming up the whole of the city, which, as you indicated, this drives the need for energy-intensive devices like air conditioning, or more importantly, as you said, it just makes life unbearable. It affects productivity. It makes just people, it's hot and it's unpleasant. So that's one of the things. Let's maybe touch on that a little bit more. But also, let's talk also under this heading of environmental sustainability. You also have this issue of water runoff. Now, in Gauteng and in the city of Johannesburg, especially in the summer months, from about November, you have these big thunderstorms in the afternoons where you have a tremendous amount of water that lands on the city in a short space of time. And obviously, the best way to deal with this is to have it run off into natural areas that are where you've got reeds and grass and trees and so forth. Perhaps speak a little bit about that. And then also, perhaps also touch on this on the biodiversity aspects of having this urban forest. How important are these things? And when you attend these conferences, perhaps, to what extent are these items highlighted? To what extent is the city of Johannesburg recognized, and indeed your department recognized for, the great work that you guys are doing in this regard and in helping the city of Johannesburg to be regarded as, among the most sustainable cities, certainly in Africa?
Yeah, speaking of that, Gordon, one of my colleagues actually just received an award, of which is going to collect it in Albania next year, 2021 in November, because of the great work that City Parks is doing in terms of greening and raising awareness on the issues of environment. So that on its own, it clearly shows that other countries and other cities are actually watching what we are doing. He actually got the news today. But on the issues of biodiversity, Gordon, that is one of the most important things that actually trees assist with in an urban environment. You will know that there are kids that never grew up in the rural areas, whereby they've never seen a bird, they have never seen an insect, they have never sin a whole lot of animal and bird species. But by having these trees, different plant species, I mean, they attract a lot of of different birds and animals that actually kids, instead of them not only learning from the book theory, but they can actually see it live and in color. So, I mean, when we're planting these trees, you see in areas where there are trees, I mean, you will hear the sound of birds. You will see different, butterflies. And I mean, you will see different kind of millipedes, different kind of frogs. And all these things is because of the trees that we have in our city. And when we are planting these trees, hence we look at different type of species that we are putting in to ensure that then we have got this biodiversity inside the city. And that is one of the most important things that actually with these things of trees and green open spaces assist with. And I have actually heard, not only in conference, the good thing about us that we work with people on the ground. You go to a meetings, community meeting, and you see these committees that communities have formed. When you are talking to them about the open space, their open spaces next to where they live, and the type of trees that they have. And all they talk about is the issues of biodiversity, different life, plants and animals that they are actually experiencing because of the green open spaces that they have and the trees as well. So it's very crucial and much more important that we continue as a city to plant and maintain these trees. And other than that, I mean, the issues of water runoff, flooding. Remember with this concrete jungle where we have got it everywhere? Now, the benefits of having trees is that they assist with the issues of reducing the intensity of the raindrop, the rain when it rains. It actually reduces, by the time when it hits the ground, it means that the speed or the velocity has decreased. So it actually assists with preventing a lot of flooding. And in areas where there's no concrete, the issues of soil erosion, because the roots bind together the soil, and then also reduces the the flow of water. So it's very crucial. It plays a very big role, issues of trees, and also the green open spaces. And like I've said earlier, not everyone can afford to have an aircon. But when we have got concrete everywhere, the heat, where does it go? It goes up. And when it goes up, where does it end up? It ends up in our own houses. Meaning that now, I mean, we will feel that heat. And for the elderly people or senior citizens, it becomes even a health risk to them. But when we put these trees and green open spaces, they actually absorb that heat and provide fresh air, they blow fresh air that actually makes the heat much more bearable. So it clearly plays a very big role. The issues of trees and green open spaces. You should have seen Zoo Lake now during the after the lockdown. People flocking there so that then they can be in an environment where it's much cooler, and then they don't have to be sitting inside their houses, using aircon. So I mean, benefits are there, and hence we need to make sure that we sustain these green open spaces for the future generation, and also for the current generation.
No, 100%. And you've reminded me of something I wanted to chat to you about. So firstly, just a point I want to make there, what you were talking about there about how the trees, dissipate the velocity of raindrops, and ultimately what's happening there is it's making the city more resilient to these types of weather events, and that's an important point to make there. You spoke about the lockdown. I wanted to ask you, and we've seen videos of this from around the world. During lockdown, the animals came out of the bush, right? I mean, you see pictures of wild animals walking down roads where typically there would be a traffic jam in that road. Now all of a sudden there's a wild animal cruising down the road. One didn't even know that these animals were there. you know, where,
No,
you know, during lockdown, there's no one around. All of a sudden, the animals are out there having a look. I mean, have you seen one or two of those?
yeah, no, definitely, definitely. Um, I mean, we have got one big open spaces in the area of Midrand. Someone was even saying that they have seen a python.
Oh, right.
But
Yeah, there you go.
it's next to a residential area. But when it was locked down, nobody ever saw that python. But suddenly, when it was quiet, then the python was out. But you
Yeah.
must remember that we have actually um, destroyed by this development. I mean, we have not made provision for these animals to live with us in this urban environment. So, hence, you see now when it's quiet, then they come out because that's the only time when they felt like, I mean, there is no one else because their habitat is very small at this particular moment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was very interesting. I mean, I saw a lot of videos on TikTok, people posting to say, I mean, we have not seen guinea fowls, but they live next to them. But because of the noise and the activities that are taking place in these small green open spaces, then they hide day and night. And you almost wish the world was always like that, so that we can see
you're
the
right.
animal. Yes.
No, 100%. Just, you know, I know that I'm trying to keep you now, but I just want to ask you one more question about a very important aspect of what you do, and you touched on it earlier about education and so forth. I mean, you guys run the Johannesburg Zoo, which is I mean, as far as zoos go, it's a massive property, and it's a beautiful asset. I mean, you know, different people have different views about zoos, but put that to one side. I mean, the point is, what you have there is a beautiful facility. Tell us about, you know, how important it is from your perspective to use the zoo as an educational and research opportunity. Talk to us about some of the numbers. How many children are coming through the zoo annually, for example? And perhaps tell us about some of these conservation spaces as well that you mentioned. You mentioned that there's actually nature reserves around the city. Perhaps talk about that and just give us some insight into one or two of the key projects that you run to engage the children in the city and expose them, as you mentioned, to these animals.
Okay. You know, surprisingly, last year we had 400,000 kids, pre-primary and primary school kids, that passed through our gate at Johannesburg Zoo, or that visited Johannesburg Zoo, and which bodes well for future of conservation or environment. When we have got such number of kids having an interest of visiting a place like a zoo, where they learn more about biodiversity, and also learn more about animals, and those animals that are endangered, like your wild dogs, whereby as a result of that, some of these kids, it actually even create an interest to them to study towards issues of zoology and nature conservation, to ensure that they end up being the one who look after these animals. But also, it also assists in creating awareness to kids, because we also offer environmental education, so that kids can actually, at a young age, be aware of days like your Earth days, your Upper Day, the importance of water, the importance of water, and the importance of also looking after the environment, and also the reason why we have got a zoo, so that they understand the reason why we have got a zoo, why we have created a zoo, why do we need to have a zoo? Because you must remember, zoo is not only area where we offer environmental education and awareness, but it also plays a role of being a breeding ground for endangered species, whereby then this animal, when they've been bred, they can actually be released into the wilderness to augment the existing animal species in the wild. There is a project right now, if I can just quickly look for you here, so that then I can give you we call it a working crane. We are busy right now actually assisting with breeding of these birds called white crane, as we speak right now, which is endemic to the KwaZulu-Natal area. So then that is one of the most important things that actually we are actually teaching or instilling to the kids this knowledge, so that they know what we do. Because without it, you must remember, some of the kids will never know what an elephant is all about. Because by having this zoo, we have actually brought in what you call it animals to their doorsteps,
Yes.
so that they can see them live. They can actually interact with them, not directly, but indirectly. Because not everybody can afford to drive to Kruger National Park, etc., etc. So those are some of the things that some of the important things that our zoo, as we speak right now, is playing, especially in the community of Johannesburg. But most importantly, social cohesion. Social cohesion. Bring community together. They meet. They engage at the zoo. They meet at the zoo, and these kids as well. They are learning to become sociable, social towards each other when they are meet at the zoo. Because otherwise, some of them, I mean, they will only know their brothers and sisters. But this zoo is bringing people together, young and adult, then promoting issues of social cohesion. And lastly, healthy lifestyle, to improve the quality of life. Even though they are not aware of it, by working in the park, at the zoo, because if you work around the whole of our zoo, all the road networks, you will have walked 10 kilometers. But then it means that after that, we have provided with you training, with exercise that actually helps in improving your own life. Therefore, improving your what do you call it, your health, what do you call it, in general. So you spoke about the issues of protected area. We have got our clip spread, that is on our south of Johannesburg, that have got a lot of different animal species that we have there, and also some trails that people can walk around still seeing these animals. So yes, so there's there's a whole lot of activities that people can actually do in those protected areas, or like our nature reserves.
No, what a pleasure. Yeah, no, thanks. And I mean, obviously, what you're talking about there really is, we're trying to bring these kids through so that they become stewards of the environment as they grow up, as they learn this appreciation of how important it is. And of course, we in South Africa, like in many southern sub-Saharan African countries, we really are stewards of this heritage. I mean, these animals don't exist anywhere else in the world. If we don't look after them, it's all over. So we really have this task, and so it's super important to, as you say, to inspire them and to help them connect with nature and learn this appreciation for nature. So look, that's all the time we have today to talk about this important stuff. You and I could carry on talking all afternoon, but so just in conclusion, Just maybe I'd like to just understand your vision for the department. Talk to us about some of the big projects. Maybe touch on, like you were touching on earlier, some of the developments that are coming, some of the new trees that you're planting. You mentioned this threat from this borer that's destroying the existing trees. Maybe just tell us about the new species, perhaps, that you're bringing into the sort of typically leafy suburbs. But in short, just give us a concluding remark, but focus on perhaps your vision for the future within the department. And from my side, I will say thank you very much indeed for joining us. It's been great chatting with you. And once you've made your concluding remarks, Byron's going to jump back on the show and he's going to wrap it up for us. So thank you very much indeed, Joseph.
Thank you. Yeah, as I speak to you right now, second week of January, we are going to have event where we will be planting 1,500 trees in 1.5 hours, in collaboration with the community, so that then they take ownership of these trees once they've been planted. And the species that we have, 3 species that we have learned through experience that they are not directly affected by the short borer. We will be planting Celtis africana, and as well as your Combretum eriphelum, because all these trees, they are indigenous, they use less water, and they are a fast-growing species. So that's one of the projects that we have. The other project that we have is at the zoo, whereby we are resuscitating all the boreholes inside the zoo. As you are aware that zoo use a lot of water, and as part of our water-wise management, we want to use borehole water because we use a lot of water when we are cleaning the enclosures, animal enclosures. I mean, if you are having almost 500,000 visitors in a year, you can imagine the amount of water that we use in our public toilets, and also the irrigation to make sure that the zoo is at a pristine conditions. And also the other big projects that we have plus or minus 80 park facilities that we are going to develop. Some of them we have already started as we speak right now. And the value of all these park development projects is sitting at around 53 million rand. So it's a massive project, and it's in your previously disadvantaged areas like your Rubber Ridge, your Lenasia, your Protea South. So, and we as an organization, we are very excited about it, taking the green open spaces to the people, for the people to use these spaces to the best of their abilities. And also, the other project that we are embarking on now is the issues of energy efficiency in our new park developments, whereby now we are going to use solar in all these parks that I've just mentioned, where lights need to be installed, so that we can also reduce pressure on our national grid. And the other one is water harvesting in this newly park that we are going to develop. Instead of us using municipal water, we are going to actually harvest water using water tankers in the buildings that we will have inside the parks. So yeah, so this is the some of the projects that we have in the pipeline right now that the community can look forward to in the next 6 months before the end of this current financial year, which end up in June.
Very, very informative. I was just sitting back. I was saying, you guys are really busy. Really busy.
No.
I was like, where do you have enough people employed on that side? We can employ more people on your guys' side, because I don't think you have enough employees on that side.
No, 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 you must remember what we are doing in terms of employment. Maybe I can quickly touch on it. We have got what we call core management model that we have introduced at the city, whereby we use core operatives to maintain some of our own facilities. So it means that we are actually giving work to the local community to look after their park facilities, and of which we have realized that it reduces what you call it, the level of vandalism of our infrastructure in the parks. But other than that, it actually gives ownership of these green open spaces and the trees to the communities, they themselves. And then it means that, yes, yeah. So then it becomes whatever that we are doing in those parks, then it becomes sustainable. Just like Gordon was using this word more often, which is anyway a keyword when you do any maintenance or any development, to say that you need to be able to sustain it.
Lovely. Love the interview, guys. Thank you so much for being on the platform and sharing today. Gordon, also thank you so much, as each week I'm asking the relative questions and always bringing out the best of our guests. Guys, I'm on the end of the show. Again, thank you so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Byron. Goodbye.
Okay, bye, Gordon. Bye.
Cheers, Joe.
Wow, that was informative as each week. As it sounded so busy on their side, but yet he covered so many aspects that needed to be covered, and that is what we do: sustainability, and he's bringing the community in, educating people on the social side also, and also the governance side. They have it all covered. So yeah, as I say each week, greeneconomy.tv provides insights and intelligence on all sustainability related matters. Bye bye.